I would love to introduce you to our insightful host for the evening, Maureen Petrovsky. Maureen is our Kappa sister from Villanova, the author of 5 books, including Wine Club, Cocktail Club, and Zero Proof Book, Drinks, and More. You've seen her over 100 times on NBC's Today Show and CBS Mornings, sharing her expertise on food, drink, and entertaining. She's a certified sommelier through the Court of Master Sommeliers, a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America, and the co-host of the hit podcast She What? She also leads a creative consulting company where she advises top food and beverage brands on trends and content and coaches writers and professional media professionals. But what truly makes Maureen special and why she's perfect for tonight is that she is the ultimate hostess in real life, helping women bring connection, creativity, and intention to how we gather and celebrate, whether with alcohol or not. We are so thrilled to have her here with us tonight. Now, Maureen, before we hand things over, we wanted to share a quick snapshot of who is in the room tonight based on our registration questions. When we asked, "What's your mocktail making vibe?" here's how our sisters responded. We have 61% at the sip and stir, so they're learning as they go. We have taste testers who are just here to enjoy at 31%, and we have shaker stars who love to mix at 8%. So you've got a group that's curious, excited, and ready to be inspired. No pressure at all. And because presentation matters just as much as what's in the glass, we also asked about what their glassware personalities were. We have 37% at the coupe. They are classic, elegant, and effortlessly fun. We have 19% at the mason jar who are creative, cozy, and delightfully unexpected. We have 16% who find themselves as the martini glass. They're bold, polished, and a little extra. The rocks glass, who is steady, timeless, and cool under pressure at 14%, and another 14% find them to be the highball, bright, bubbly, and full of energy. Safe to say this group has great taste and they're ready to elevate their mocktail game. Maureen, with that snapshot of tonight's group, we're so excited to learn from you. Thank you for being here. The floor is all yours. My goodness, yay. Okay, I'm going to spotlight you, Maureen, and this is going to be the best night ever.
I am so happy to be here. This is super fun, Kappas. It made me think of so many fun memories of being a Kappa Kappa Gamma. And just the other day, I found my little key, my pin from when I was a Kappa at Villanova. So this is really enjoyable for me to see you all tuning in. And I love Sophie's intro. Thank you so much. I wanted to say it was cracking me up how she was so worried about everyone being cold. It is freezing everywhere. We were in single digits today here in Pennsylvania. So I'm glad you joined me to warm up a little bit with some mindful drinking. If you want to go to the next slide, I think Sophie gave a pretty good introduction to what I do, but I did want to let you know that in addition to Zero Proof Drinks and More, I have written a few other books, The Wine Club, which is a month-by-month guide. It's like a book club, but better. And then also I wrote The Cocktail Club, and Zero Proof Drinks and More was actually written during or finished during COVID. So I have some funny stories to tell you about a little bit about the behind the scenes of that. And then she said that I'm the ultimate hostess, and I've luckily been given that name from the Today Show. I had been on NBC's Today Show over 100 times. I started when I was 25 years old, and I love it. It's a great experience to be able to be on live TV and share all of the fun, entertaining tips. So for me, being the ultimate hostess is about creating beautiful things that are attainable that any of you can do. So I love seeing all of your different personalities in the glassware and where you're at with what you want to do tonight. So the thing about today's zero proof culture is that it is exploding. Right now, there is, I think the last report came out said that it was a $1.3 trillion in sales. I mean, that's an insane amount of money. Where wine and spirits used to really be pushing the beverage culture, now today's zero proof culture encompasses people that want to take the night off or take the year off, or maybe you're doing dry January. There's lots of reasons why. But globally, the big NA brands, non-alcoholic brands, are making a lot of beers where it kind of really kicked off in Europe. And we saw that in Prague. The laws are different. We have pretty flexible drinking and driving laws in the United States, believe it or not, in comparison to other cultures. If you get caught drinking and driving, you don't just get like a slap on the wrist, you go to jail. So they were creating good non-alcoholic beers long before we were. And the idea of low ABV or low alcohol by volume is something that's always been a part of the European culture. It's just lower alcohol drinks that you can enjoy during the day and still maybe go back to work. But there's non-alcoholic bars popping up all over the place. I saw that you were from all over the country. I'd love to hear if you've got non-alcoholic spirit stores near you, or even bars, and you're going to see more and more mocktail menus. I don't love the word mocktail. I try to steer away from it, but it's something that most people identify with and they understand very quickly. But there's lots of different words now. The terminology has also exploded. So mindful drinking, meaning we're not just, drinking too much. Everyone's paying attention. Again, for lots of different reasons, whether you're counting calories or you've got to get up early for work the next day. Sober curious is another one. Zero proof, which is what I chose to name this book. Spirit free. These are things you might see on menus when you go out to eat at restaurants. And any restaurant that it's worth a dime should have a good non-alcoholic menu. The chef should be able to work with the bar program and create something that's interesting for anyone to drink. You want to make your guest and hospitality feel like they're just as special, even if they're not drinking alcohol. We mentioned mocktails and low ABV, and then session cocktails. You might hear that term used when we're talking about beers. So why zero proof? There's lots of reasons. Like we mentioned, your health, maybe religion. A good night's sleep is a big one for me. And I know a lot of people start to take off drinking during the week. It's, interrupting your sleep. And maybe you're drinking too much. Maybe you're finding that you don't want to be hungover the next day. And so I know that us Kappas at Villanova, we were always mindful drinkers, but there were plenty of mornings when we thought after our formals that might not have been a great idea. It took me a little bit longer to realize that, and that's when I got into zero proof drinking. But one of the main reasons I did was because I wanted my guests who weren't drinking to have something more interesting than water. And as someone who calls themselves the ultimate hostess, or is taking on that title, I have to live up to it, and that means making sure every guest feels special. For us in the industry, like I just said, for me, that burden is on me. The higher education is to make sure that we're educating all of you about zero proof drinks and why they are important. But that doesn't mean they have to be, the mocktails of the olden days. There's no more Shirley Temples, although a Shirley Temple is pretty delicious. But there are more elevated ways to do it, like exploring the five senses. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we start to make one of the cocktails tonight. And they're not just gimmicks. These can be really well thought out, crafted, delicious, balanced drinks. And while we do have things that drive the industry, like Dry January and Sober October and swimsuit season, zero proof drinks really have staying power. And if we make it an indulgence, it's something you're going to go to more and more. I mentioned the low ABV drinks, and this is a picture of a Aperol Spritz, and that's a really popular low ABV cocktail. So there's a lot of cocktails out there that you might not even realize are lower in alcohol already. So you're still indulging, but a great way to, if you're looking to just start cutting back the alcohol, maybe you're not ready to give it up for good or give it up for a month, but you just kind of want to have something a little less. This is a great place for you to start. Wine and beer are great bases. So wine and beer are lower in alcohol by volume than spirits anyway. And when I say spirits, I'm talking about vodka and gin and bourbon and all of the really high proof bottles that you put on your bar. Starting with wine and beer, which are much less alcohol by volume, and then that being your base and adding mixers, just naturally you're cutting the amount of alcohol you're consuming down. So I always like to start with something bitter and go from there. So the Aperol Spritz, Aperol is a bitter. I don't know if there's a lot of fans here. Some people, you either love it or hate it. It's like one of those things like cilantro. People love Aperol or they hate it, but it is a bitter aperitif, something that was consumed to get your palate, waking up before you start. Oh, I see a love. Me too. I love it. Before you go out, have your dinner. So, and it's a nice, light, bitter, something that makes your mouth water. There are lots of flavored spirits. You're going to see a lot of flavored vodkas, even flavored tequilas now. Anytime it's flavored, it's usually lower in alcohol. Because if you think about it, the amount of flavor that has to be in that bottle needs to take place of something. So the alcohol by volume is lowered automatically. So if you're ordering, a grapefruit vodka in your drink, you're going to have a lower amount of alcohol in there already. And then you get less by adding more water to your glass or more ice or sparkling water. Those are really simple ways to start cutting back. And zero proof was pandemic proof. And I can promise you that because I sold this book right before we went into lockdown. The weekend we were supposed to do the photo shoot for all of the beautiful imagery that's in this book, we got locked down. And so I was able to have one photographer come to the house and we shot 100 images. That meant 100 different pieces of glassware, just he and myself. And it was insanity. No crew, no one was working, but we had to deliver if we wanted to get paid. And here I was writing a book about not drinking in a time when people started drinking their faces off. Happy hour started when people woke up. And this went on for a year. And I kept thinking, are people going to go back to this trend? We saw the trend just starting to cut through out of the cities and trickle out into the suburbs year round, not just like dry January. But then it took this huge step backwards because everything went out the window. And so now here I was finishing this zero proof book, really believing in these beautiful drinks and wanting to create things that were crafted and delicious and well balanced, that weren't just sugary sweet mocktails. And I promise you, it was pandemic proof because now the book is doing better than ever, not just in dry January. The book is published from a Canadian publisher, and in Canada and the United States, the audience just continues to grow. People continue, like you all tonight, to be curious about how they can incorporate this into their lives. That being said, 66% of drinkers between the age of 21 and 34 are actively cutting down alcohol. I could have never guessed that when I was younger, that was going to be the trend, but I'm glad that it is. And so to get started with the trend, I want to talk a little bit about some shrubs and syrups. So this is how you're going to be building your bar so that you're set up to make drinks quickly and easily. We all know it's the same way that we don't eat healthy is when we're not set up for it. It's the same with drinks. If you're not set up for it, you're going to make different choices. But if you've got some syrups and shrubs in your arsenal or in your pantry, in your refrigerator, it's a lot easier to come home after a long day and make a quick non-alcoholic drink. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that too when we start to make our drink, which we're going to do right now. So I've got lots of stuff here right in front of me. I think Sophie's going to bring me back to me so I can see you all. And we're going to make an apricot flip. So one thing about entertaining and cooking is that you have to be flexible. So of course today, when I was going out to prep for our drinks tonight, I couldn't find half the things I wanted to get in the grocery store because everyone was out shopping for this big snow we're supposed to have this weekend. And in the Northeast where I am, we had a lot of snow last weekend, but we didn't even know it was coming, so nobody was panicked. This week they're saying that we're getting more snow. Everybody was out shopping. So instead of making an apricot flip, if you've got apricot juice, great. I'm going to use mango because that's what I was able to find. It's going to give me the same nice fruity. It's not going to be as light as an apricot flip, which is what I really love, is that nice light. But you can also use tangerine juice also to get to this. This starts with 3 ounces of apricot or mango. I've got ice in my shaker already, so I'm going to just go ahead and add this right to the shaker. I'm going to go. Now, I didn't measure that because I've made a lot of drinks in my time and I can kind of eyeball it. But most of you probably have a lid on your shaker like this. And each of these is typically 1 ounce or 2 ounces. There's usually a measurement on it so that when you're making enough drinks, you know what. And then there's always markers on the side. There's little lines. That indicates to you if it's a 1/2 ounce. You might have to measure it for yourself the first time, and then you know what shaker you have because it's not written on there, the numbers, but it's just like red Solo cups where they have the lines and each line is a certain amount of ounces. It's the same thing with shakers. So I've got my mango juice in there. And then I talked to you about shrubs, but another great thing to keep on hand is something they call aquafaba. This is the magic of a recipe that gives it a lot of really good body. And it's simply chickpea liquid. You can get the same liquid out of a can of beans, obviously white beans, because we don't want to have black bean, the color in the cocktail. But so here is just nothing fancy, grocery store brand of chickpeas. And I just opened the lid here. I'm going to show you. This is the aquafaba, this liquid here that comes out of the can. So when you strain your beans or your chickpeas, you usually rinse this all off. But this little magic liquid is going to make a nice frothy top for our cocktail tonight. And you can keep this in the refrigerator. It usually lasts after you open it for about a week if it's sealed and in the refrigerator. So I just usually put a lid on this, eat my chickpeas, and then I've got this in there so I can use it if I want to. A couple of tablespoons. It's a neutral flavor, so it doesn't add any additional flavor to your drink, but it's going to give body and it's going to give us that nice frothiness. So a lot of times when you're taking out the alcohol, you're taking out the viscosity of what alcohol brings. So alcohol brings a couple of things besides the buzz. It brings the viscosity and it also brings the burn. And I know that some people had sent questions in advance about how to get that burn when you're getting alternate drinks. So we can talk about that too, but right now we're going to finish this cocktail so you have something to sip on while we continue to talk. So we've got 1.5 ounces of aquafaba. It's going to be added to our juice and there's ice in the shaker again, like I said. And then a lemon lime shrub. So I have my shrub here already measured out because I keep my shrubs in the refrigerator. Did any of you try to make a shrub or have you made a shrub before? I don't know if we can see like a...
I see a few hands up saying that they had attempted.
So essentially what a shrub is a mixture of vinegar and sugar and a flavoring. And it can be anything, like this one is a lemon lime. So we've used the skins of the lemons to get the oils out into the sugar. And then there's lime juice and usually there's a vinegar base. So what's bringing the burn here is the vinegar. It's also bringing the acidity, and that is what makes your mouth water. When you take a sip of wine and your mouth puckers, that's the dryness, but then if it lets go, you start to feel your cheeks fill up with saliva. That's when your mouth is watering, literally, and that's what makes you want to have another sip. So by making these shrubs, when you make a shrub, it doesn't take very long to make them. You can make them with all different flavors, like I mentioned. You can infuse them with spices like black peppercorns or anise. You can use all different fruits. You don't have to use fresh fruit. You can use frozen fruit. And then once you make those, that picture that you saw of all the jars, they look like science experiments. They're just delicious, very intense flavoring. So you don't use a lot of it in the drink. This drink calls for 1.5 ounces. No, this drink calls for 1 ounce. And I'm just gonna add that there. If you don't want to squeeze all the lemons and all the limes, I do encourage you not to grab those plastic lime shapes or lemon shaped bottles that you can get in the grocery store. They have a very metallic, artificial flavor that comes in the aftertaste, and that really does affect your cocktail. So if you don't have time to squeeze fresh lemon juice or fresh lime juice, there are brands that you can find pure lemon concentrate or pure lime concentrate. Again, I found this in my regular giant grocery store, but I did have to go over to the organic section. It's a shelf stable product, so it's not in the refrigerated section, but some grocery stores do have cold pressed juices in the refrigerated section, but go towards the organic or natural food section. You're more likely to find this as opposed to those plastic containers, because every little layering of flavor changes what you're going to experience. And you want your final product, all the work you're doing, to be something delicious. So I definitely suggest organic, pure squeezed lemon juice. Fresh squeezed is the best if you've got time. It's good to build up your wrist muscles. Also, you can get a little burn going that way. And then we're going to add to this a little simple syrup. So the shrub really brings the vinegar. Even though they have sugar in the recipes to balance them a little bit, you're going to taste that vinegar. You probably smell it. So if any of you have made a shrub and it's in front of you and you're making this drink, don't be afraid. You're not drinking a straight vinegar drink. What's already in here, we've got that sweet juice that we started with, and then we've got the creaminess from the aquafaba. We've got now our lemon lime shrub. Again, if you don't have a shrub, you can substitute with some fresh lemon juice, and then you might have to just balance out a little bit with your simple syrup. So a simple syrup is just 50-50 water and sugar. I have a bottle of it here that's just easy for me to demonstrate drinks, but it's really inexpensive to make. And you can just add your simple syrup right from you can make it on the stovetop, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of sugar. You bring it to a boil until the sugar dissolves, and then you cool it. And then you can flavor that with vanilla beans. You can flavor a simple syrup with spices. I love a vanilla simple syrup. It adds just a little bit of a different flavor to your cocktails. And again, the syrup is what's giving some viscosity back to it. So I just flipped my jigger over, and I don't like my drinks to be too sweet. We do need sugar for balance and body, but if it's too sweet, then it's too heavy. And it's just like a bad cocktail. A bad mocktail, if it's too sweet, is going to be disgusting. And you're going to feel sick after you drink that. So again, we want to be creating something that's going to make our mouth water. But a little bit of sugar does help keep it balanced. All right, so now I've got everything in there, and I'm going to give a really good shake. So you have to shake it to get that foam. A lot of times people ask how long they should shake a cocktail. For me, the key is to have it nice and well chilled. And as soon as you can see the frost on the outside of your cocktail shaker, that's a good sign. So I might have closed this a little too tightly. I wanted to open it to show you the foam. I don't know if you can see that, but it's foamy on top there. But first I'm going to strain it into my glass. And then, so that's what my cocktail's looking like. And it's a little thicker because I used the mango juice, which is thicker than let's grab a spoon, than the apricot. And so then I'm going to spoon off from the top of my shaker the foam. And that foam we got from the aquafaba. I'm just going to fill to the top then. So you can start to see that it's a layered drink. And the foam is really rich and creamy looking. If any of you are making it along with me. And we talked about the glassware and what you identify with and why it's so important and what it looks like. But for non-alcoholic drinks or alcoholic drinks, if I'm ordering a drink, I want it to be in a nice glass. I want it to be in something that I'm excited to drink from. So I put this in a little coupe that I hand carried back from Amsterdam. I was running around doing a little bit of work on vodka when I was writing my cocktail book with Kettle One, which is a little bit south. The home of the family that owns Kettle One is a little bit south of, the club soda. Just mix the club soda. After I shake this, I add the club soda in there. So mine doesn't have the club soda in. The club soda adds a little spritz. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. My club soda was over here. I didn't see it behind this that I wanted to talk to you about also. So you're going to add your club soda at the end. You can shake with the club soda or add the club soda after you shake and then give it a stir. So club soda, any kind of bubbles and spritz again is going to give us a nice mouth feel. So if you're making this along with me or you're going to make this, that's what you want, is a little bit of club soda. And then here in front, I've got some fresh thyme. This is our little garnish we're going to add to the top of our drink. Just a sprig or two. And then there's our drink. I hope you can see it. It's really, really pretty. It smells really good. Let me give it a sip. And anytime you taste something new, whether you're wine tasting or you're zero proof drink tasting, always take 3 sips. First sip is to get whatever was in your mouth washed away before, whether it was your dinner or if it was, something else that you drank, if you had a cup of coffee or, something different, or maybe you haven't eaten in a couple of hours and you just have kind of a stale taste in your mouth. Then the second sip, I want you to pay attention to the flavors and the aromas. I'm so happy with this drink right now. I don't know if any of you made it alongside of me, but I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And then the third sip, this is professional advice, I'm telling you, is to pay attention to how it finishes, how it makes your mouth feel. And for me, I am feeling a lot of mouth watering. It is bright, it is refreshing, it's layered, it's interesting, it's got body, it has all of the things you want in a zero proof drink. Zero proof drinks don't have to just be syrupy sweet. If they are, they're flat. That's not lending anything interesting to the experience of drinking. So this drink is pretty. It makes me want to come back and have it again by serving it in a different glass. It makes me feel special, like I'm not giving up something. If you found that it was hard to give up alcohol for this month or for the weekend, or maybe you're dieting and looking to cut back calories, sometimes I simply just put a nice, delicious, chilled club soda into one of these glasses, and then I drink that for myself at night. And I feel like I'm giving myself a little treat. And that's what it should feel like. That's what mindful drinking is. It's paying attention to what you're putting in your body, how it makes you feel, and if you want to do it again. I mentioned that I got these glasses, I carried them home from Amsterdam when I was doing some work with the family that owns Kettle One. They were celebrating their 250th anniversary. So they had a big party and they invited press from all over the world to come in for the weekend. And I always try to get out and see the city wherever I am. And I was running around and I saw this down this little alleyway. There was a woman sitting in the back of this, like, literally teeny tiny shop, but there were dishes and glassware piled up so precariously all around her. It was like a scene out of a movie. So I had to stop in this little shop. So I went down very carefully without knocking anything over. And I knew I had to buy something from her. And I found these beautiful glasses. They're almost like a depression glass. It's got a gray stem, a gray glass stem, and then it's just a smaller bulb. Glassware doesn't have to be big and obnoxious. I don't like when I get a drink that's served in something big and heavy. I like it to have a little finesse to it when it's this type of drink. If it's a Bloody Mary and it's got a lot of stuff going on, I don't mind a larger glass, but I do find that the right glass for the right drink makes a big difference, especially when it comes to zero proof drinks. So that's our apricot flip. And I hope that the flip is and the flip is a type of cocktail that's made with an egg white. So if you've ever had a flip or a sour, traditionally they were made with egg whites, and that's what gives it that frothy creaminess to it. But again, this now is a completely vegan because we're having it with chickpea, aquafaba. So now you've learned a little bit of magic of making zero proof drinks. So cheers, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight.
Yay, is that a perfect segue into maybe getting into some of our Q&A, Maureen?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yay, perfect. Okay. I'm going to start sharing my screen so we can get situated with our next giveaway for the evening. That was amazing. I'm so jealous that I did not create mine alongside with you, but I can't wait to do it again after because Maureen shared with us the recipe card and we have it on the website on the event listing so that you guys can access this recipe again. So before we jump into the giveaway, let's have a little fun and keep the creativity flowing with our second giveaway. Imagine we're putting tonight's cocktail on a menu. If tonight's signature Flourish mocktail had a name, what would you call it? Type your best name in the chat. It can be funny, classy, playful. People had some questions that we want to get to and talk about some more topics that we had covered earlier. So I have our first question, which is, are there any seasonal flavors or techniques you're especially excited about right now in the mocktail space?
So for me right now, it's cold. And I know for a lot of you, it's cold. One of the things I'm loving seeing is people working with teas, different teas as the base. So we mentioned, having your shrubs to have that acidity, but a tea is something that can give a nice herbal aroma in place of something like the bittersweet that you get from, what was the cocktail I showed you earlier? The one I said you love or you hate, you either love it or you hate it. It's the Aperol. The Aperol has got that real bitter flavor to it. But you can get those herbal notes from teas also. So I'm loving seeing people use different teas. So I have a lot of tea here in front of me. That's one of the reasons I put them here. These are loose teas. Loose teas tend to be a little stronger and better when you're making cocktails to give you a stronger base flavor. This one is wild chamomile and lavender. And that one I made, and then I used a blueberry syrup with it, and it was really delicious. Also, making syrups and shrubs is a great way to keep those summertime flavors that you can't maybe get the freshest, sweetest ones in the market right now. But if you make it into a syrup or a shrub, you can enjoy that all throughout the winter. And this one is rosy apple mint tea, which has rose geranium, so it has floral notes to it. If you're a wine lover, sometimes having a floral note in your mocktail is really nice. And a couple of the other flavors I have here are chocolate mint. I've got a Thai rubus. And then this one is a green tea with Thai flavors. So I know I just said like 10 flavors, but it is because there are so many different ways that you can go with mocktails. You don't have to be just stuck in a rut. But I think by using the teas or coffee even, and exploring those different flavors, coffees can be chocolatey or they can be fruity, they can be nutty. Those are all things that you can add to your drink when you're starting to talk about layering flavors. So you probably have some things right in your house that you can start to play with. So don't overthink it. Just think about what you typically like to drink or eat and then start from there.
Love that. Somebody asked, is there a good alternative for the aquafaba?
So if you are opposed to the aquafaba and you don't want to have any of the liquid from the jar, you can always use an egg white. You can use an egg white substitute, but also another ingredient that makes a really good frothy top is pineapple juice. It's one of my favorite things to keep in the house, these little tiny cans of pineapple juice. And this is a light pineapple juice in particular because there's less sugar in these little cans. They're small enough that you don't have to open a big giant thing of juice to keep if you're only making a couple of drinks. They add a ton of flavor and they make a nice frothy head too. So if you don't want the aquafaba, pineapple juice obviously is not a neutral flavor though, so it's going to be adding in that fruity tropical flavors to your drink, but that's a good way to get some froth in your drink too.
Good to know. Is there a way to do something smoky for winter?
So smoky is also, I would go back to those teas and coffees. That's definitely an aroma that you can get in those two beverages that you can start to layer with. And you can also make hot cocktails. So there's our hot mocktails. I love to do a toasted marshmallow hot Nutella. So there's a recipe for that in my book too, but I think it's also on thekitchen.com. But by toasting those marshmallows, you get that smokiness. That's a really good if you want a hot drink. And I do love hot drinks this time of year, just something nice to hold. But again, you can make those with the teas. You can make like a version of a hot toddy with the teas, lemon juice, honey. You can substitute your sweeteners. They don't have to all be simple syrup. You can use honeys, local honeys, infused flavored honeys. I talked about infused flavored syrups. There's lots of ways to get those elements, but you're looking for sweet, you're looking for body. You want to make sure you've got that mouth-watering part, which is the vinegar that comes from the shrubs. If you're not using a shrub, you're going to be using some acidity like a lemon or a lime.
Another member asked, can you use hot tea in a drink? I know you touched a little bit
Oh,
on
yeah.
it, but
So I was just talking about that. So I love hot teas. Any of these teas that I'm making and chilling, I can also make it into a hot drink. So it's a little harder to layer a lot of acidic flavors into a hot drink. But when I go back and think about a toddy, you're just using a lot of lemon, honey, bourbon, and your hot water. And in this case, you'd be putting a tea there in place of. It's really difficult to have an alcohol substitute. So you'll see that there's a lot of products on the market now that are just as expensive as the real deal. So, for instance, a bottle of zero proof bourbon can cost you about $50. It's the same as buying a bourbon. It's what I would call alcohol adjacent. It's not going to be the same as a bourbon. All of those products are adjacent in flavors, but you're not going to get the burn that you get from alcohol from any of them. The way that I get the burn in, or that interesting part, that kind of kick that you get from alcohol, I do it with spice or I do it with shrubs. So I have some jalapenos here. Jalapenos are a fast and easy way to get a little spice into your drink. A slicing, it infuses very quickly. So, and you don't need a lot of it. A few thin slices of a jalapeno with some of that pineapple juice and some coconut water. That's a 3-ingredient mocktail that's delicious and is going to deliver. Um, and I also love to keep cans. I have a can of lychees here. So I like to keep different kinds of ingredients that will make it interesting for me or my guests to drink.
I love that. I love jalapenos in my beverages as well. I have a question that is, if you're hosting a large group, what is your go-to zero proof drink?
So I do love a punch bowl. I am an old soul at heart. I love a punch bowl because the history of the punch bowl is that the reason that the cups were made tiny were so that people would come back to the bowl over and over again, creating a space for people to congregate, create community and conversation. And so I just love the idea of the punch bowl. So if you've got grandma's punch bowl somewhere, bust it out. This is the perfect time to do it. I love this time of year. I like to do an apple. I have one that's made with apple cider, and I put frozen cranberries in it and sliced apples, and it's sparkling. So I do end up adding a little bit of either non-alcoholic or alcohol removed bubbly wine. I have some good ones here, or just club soda. So I'm going for the spritz. I've got that seasonal flavor, which is the cider in there. I do add a little bit of shrub because I want, again, that vinegar to cut through. I'm just not serving apple cider. I want it to be of interest. So I'm going for those layers of flavor. And then frozen cranberries is like a must in my house. They're in the freezer all the time. It's the fastest and easiest way to dress up a drink. A couple of frozen cranberries, some sprigs of rosemary, Christmas cocktail. It doesn't matter what's in the glass. Super easy, just that garnish. And for a big, another, if it's not winter, my favorite summertime one is to do a non-alcoholic sangria where I use melon, a honeydew melon. I use sliced jalapeno. I use a zero proof sparkling wine. And then I will use a substitute or an adjacent product for like the brandy that would be in a sangria. So I'm making a white sangria, but it's really pretty. It's got light green melon in it, and then the dark green from the jalapeno slices. It's got the heat, it's got the sweetness, it's got the bubbly. Makes a beautiful picture, so it's perfect to do double duty as decor and also as a delicious drink.
Totally. When you're making the syrups and shrubs, what is the general shelf life in the fridge?
That's a great question. So syrups can last a long time. It's mostly sugar. So sugar is a preservative. They can last for months. Shrubs, they can also last for months, but I would say 8 weeks tops in the refrigerator in a container. So, a great little mason jar is a great way to put those away. We say, and I say in the book, because we had to for whatever the FDA reasons, was that you should get rid of them after 4 weeks. You'll know if you open your refrigerator and it looks a little cloudy or it looks a little different, toss it. But essentially, the ingredients of vinegar and sugar are both preservatives and natural preservatives that are used in other things that keep things preserved. So by nature, they're going to last a long time.
Yeah, totally. What is your go-to mocktail for skeptics, the one that makes them rethink what a non-alcoholic drink can be?
I would say what we just made, because it's got such layered and different flavors to it. I think when you surprise somebody with a flavor, first of all, apricot isn't a traditional choice to put into a non-alcoholic drink. So when you're choosing something that's a conversation starter, especially for a skeptic that's coming at you, I would choose something that uses a different ingredient, one they're not going to be used to, one they can't automatically argue with. I also, like I mentioned, that coconut water, pineapple juice, jalapeno, making something that's like a zero proof, lighter version of a pina colada is delivering flavor and experience. And something that's delicious without all the calories and all the sugar. So right there is something that's a skeptic that you can say, like, we can have a delicious drink without all of this sugar. Anytime I get a skeptic, it always boils down to how does it taste in the end. So if somebody wants their old fashioned and they're a bourbon drinker, they're never going to be happy with a non-alcoholic drink. You need to have somebody who's open-minded and know that they're going to be drinking something different and something adjacent. It's not a substitute, or a direct substitute, I should say.
Yes, definitely. Any suggestions for shaker brands?
It's really hard to say because I have had some really expensive shakers that break. I have had some really expensive shakers that leak or that I can't open. I don't really have any. This shaker I have had, this is probably one of my favorites. It doesn't even have a name. It does say on the bottom, made in India. I've had this since I worked as a waitress when I was at Villanova. So this is a very old shaker, nothing fancy, probably from a restaurant supply store. It's my favorite shaker. I would say try a few. I can't directly recommend one. I can even see like this one I'm not loving. If you can see, I don't know if you can see the countertop, but I don't know if you can even see me right now, but this one's kind of leaking. So this beautiful, pretty rose gold one that someone sent is not my favorite. I would go back to this old school, not as pretty, but totally practical shaker. I apologize. I can't think of any shaker brands off the top of my head.
No, all good. Do you have any tools that you would recommend that are worth owning and what ones people can skip? I feel like I am a sucker for buying anything that I think I just need to make the process look better.
Well, Sophie, I love when things look good too, so I totally get it. And I really think that if it makes you happy, you can have it. These are small items. I wouldn't get anything over the top that you don't even really, you need a shaker. Most shakers have a built-in strainer right in the top. You don't need an extra strainer. You don't need any extra glassware. I do love a big cocktail spoon. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I have, let me see here, a couple of tools on hand. Sorry. So I do have some prettier items. Like I do love a nice, pretty copper colored or rose gold colored jigger. These are muddlers. So this one's obviously if I'm making a pitcher of drinks. And this one is smaller, has my initials on it, something a little fancier, but it has a rough bottom that I can really muddle herbs and fruit with. So muddlers are a fun tool to have. And then I just love a traditional old cocktail spoon. If you've ever seen the bartenders who roll it between their hands, and it's really just to get something that's on the rocks nice and cold. But a cocktail spoon is a great thing to have too, because you can scoop that froth out of your shaker. You can get any fruit that's at the bottom of the shaker out. You can take anything you don't want in your drink out with them. But those are some good tools. Having just a really good bottle opener, an old school wine key that has all of the things on it is really handy. I have a small cutting board here that I keep for my bar area. A cutting board, a little knife. You don't really need much more. For me, I'd indulge in the glassware and spend on things that I love that are interesting and pretty, no matter what I put inside of them.
I am also a sucker for glassware, so I second that.
Has
Um,
a glassware problem, and we're at a one in, one out at this moment. He's not allowing me to bring any more in because I do love vintage and antique and old glassware. Like I mentioned, this was from a woman in Amsterdam. These pretty green glasses I bought at the Paris flea market. I really do love pretty old glassware, and I use it. I use it all the time. So it's not like it's something that gets put away and never seen again. And if it breaks, then I get to go buy more glassware. So it's okay.
I believe that as well to be true. Do you have any brands you recommend of the alcohol or alternatives like tequila, bourbon, anything like that?
Yeah, so there is a brand called Lyres, Lyre, that I think does a pretty good job in all of those categories, especially their tequilas. And this is a brand called Wilderton. This is their bittersweet. This is what I would use as a substitute in place of Aperol, which is one of those that's like a funky, weird flavor that might be hard to find, but I do like Wilderton also. This brand does their own versions of a non-alcoholic spirit. It's almost like a flavored gin or a flavored vodka. It's called Amethyst. I do love non-alcoholic bubbly wine. They're great for big batch drinks. So Freixenet, which is usually in the black bottle, you've probably seen it's a cava. It's a Spanish brand that I like. Not expensive, totally affordable. Again, when you're putting in lots of fresh fruit or other flavors, you're not necessarily worried about exactly how it tastes solo, but they do taste good on their own too. And then other things I really keep stocked up on in my house are fun, different bubblies. So this is a new one from Perrier, the Maison Perrier. Just really delicious. They've got a peach and a grapefruit. They're a good size to keep on hand also for fun cocktails. I splurge on ingredients like good tonic water. So this is Fever Tree. That's a brand I like for that. And then another thing forgot to mention was kombucha makes a great non-alcoholic cocktail. Kombucha already has that little bit of vinegariness to it and sometimes spritz. So you're getting two things out of one bottle. I have got the pink lady apple here, and this makes a great little mocktail if I want to add a few things to that. But it's a good ingredient to keep on hand. Kombucha, you can get that zing also from that. This time of year, ginger beer is a must. So ginger beer is, again, I bought the Fever Tree. I like this size bottle too because then I don't have a big bottle open. But you've got your mule mugs. You can make a nice mango ginger mule. You could make, instead of having the Moscow mule, but ginger beer is a great zinging flavor that I like to have in the winter. And so that's Fever Tree. And then I like these buy bottles of coconut water. They have a couple different flavors that are fun. So I like the plain because I like to add my pineapple juice, but this one's also a coconut strawberry. And if you want to make it like a daiquiri, that's a good ingredient to keep on hand. So, and again, a good size with the resealable container. So it's not like you're opening it and you have to use it all in one night. They can go back in the fridge. You can make a couple mocktails throughout the week.
Those all sound so delicious. I love kombucha as well and
Then,
have made
of
some
course,
drinks
yeah, I
that are
love
super good
kombucha.
with them.
And of course, there's someone at, we talked about like less sugar. This is a new fun thing that Ocean Spray is making. It's their zero sugar cranberry juice. It's a pink cranberry. So if you're wanting like a Cosmo, this would be what I would go for. It's a lot less sugar. It's their, again, in smaller bottles. Aren't they so cute? I love the zero sugars. And they're good flavor. So you've got that, that tart cranberry flavor in there, but with not all the sugar. And there's tons of great recipes in the Zero Proof book. I was telling you that it is pandemic proof and that behind the scenes, we shot all of the images here in my house and they turned out really, really beautiful. I did end up like laying on the ground after washing all those dishes every single night, but like this is the rhubarb blush, just a pretty drink in a pretty glass. Here's obviously spicy margarita. Margarita is an easy one to make. This is called a hot naughty. Someone was asking about hot drinks before. This is starting with a chai tea base, a really lovely hot non-alcoholic drink for you to have. You can still have your espresso martinis, everyone. They're in the book. So I sent along to Sophie, and she's going to share with you all an order form. If anyone wants to order a personalized copy, I can personalize it to you, or I can personalize it as a gift also. It makes for a great hostess gift for anyone, not just for those giving up drinks, but there's drinks in here that have everything, even beer-based drinks. This is a grapefruit radler. They are pretty and they are pretty easy, which is what I love. We want to make things that are easy and attainable for us so that we actually do it. So I can promise you that there's lots in there. And we literally hit every single flavor combo that you can think of. And there's zero proof and there's low ABV in there also. So that makes it a little bit different than some of the other books out there that just had zero proof drinks. This has some low ABVs in there too, for any of you easing your way into it.
So, thank you for everything tonight, Maureen. We're so excited that you got to come and spend this time with us.
My
Um,
pleasure.
We want to say a huge thank you to you for sharing your creativity, expertise, and all of your incredible mocktail wisdom with us. This was such a fun way to kick off 2026 together. We're so grateful you spent your evening with our Kappa sisters. Thank you all to everyone as well for joining us tonight. These Flourish events are made possible by our dues paying alum, and your continued support allows us to keep creating experiences like this. If you need to pay your dues, please again just go to the Pay Dues tab on the Kappa website. It's where you'll find everything. And I think even Whitney dropped some information in the chat so that you're able to do it there. We want to make sure that you don't miss anything that's coming up next in our Flourish lineup. It's going to be really fun. So, book lovers, this one is for you. Our next Flourish event is on Monday, January 26th at 7 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Mountain Time. This is our Flourish Book Club pick. We might just make it after all. My Best Friendship with Kate Spade by Elise Aarons. She is the co-founder of Francis Valentine, and yes, Elise will be joining us live. Because February is all about creativity and connection, we are also hosting 2 nights of Galentine Sketch Night, where you can doodle the night away with illustrator Holly McKegg. These events are designed to be relaxed, playful, and a perfect excuse to unwind and create together. No art experience required. You'll find all the links to the upcoming events in the chat now and Maureen's book link and everything about paying your dues, so be sure to save your spot. We also have the recording of tonight's event that will be sent in tomorrow's post-event wrap-up email and also live on the main event page if you know a sister who couldn't attend or you just want to revisit tonight's cocktail magic. So thank you again for being a part of Flourish Night. Thank you again, Maureen. We can't wait to gather with you again very soon. Till then, cheers, sisters, and good night.